Card King, here I come. Hello, sports fans, sports collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com, your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program a former MLB catcher, played for the New York Mets, Los Angeles Dodgers, the Angels, and the White Sox. I welcome in Barry Lyons. Barry, Brian C., honored to have you.
Hey, Brian, great to be on with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, sir. Barry, I want to begin the conversation. College years, you're a graduate of Delta State University in Mississippi. And it wasn't baseball which got you the full ride scholarship to Delta. It was your football talents that drew eyes on you right away. Is that correct?
It was, Brian. I played both sports growing up and had a passion for both. But there was no question in my mind or in my heart or in my gut that baseball was the game that I loved the most, was most passionate about. I had three older brothers that excelled in sports and were role models and sort of trailblazers for me, and I learned a lot from them. But I loved playing the football games. I loved the competitiveness of football and the one-on-one battles, especially as an offensive lineman. But baseball was always number one. But I had baseball scholarships. You rarely get full scholarships, and that's an issue for another day and a conversation that's been had many, many times over, and hopefully they'll rectify it one day. But anyway, yeah, I did receive a full scholarship to play football at a Division II program here in Mississippi called Delta State University. And I had an agreement in place before I accepted it to be able to play baseball in the spring and not have to go through spring training in football. But thankfully, our great coach, Coach Dave Booferis, a former Red Sox great pitcher and pitching coach in the 40s and 50s, was offered me what amounted to a full baseball scholarship, and I rescinded the football scholarship and gladly and happily and thankfully, started my baseball journey at Delta State University.
And Barry, no question, baseball was destined for you. In college, you were NCAA All-American, two-time DSU MVP, DSU career leader in home runs, 36, and RBIs, 185. Graduated with honors, and you were Mississippi Baseball Player of the Year. Amazing performance in college.
Well, we had a great program, and as I mentioned, Coach Ferris, with his major league ties and his great career and the great respect that he had, he was able to recruit some really talented players, most of which could have probably played Division I baseball, but because of the respect everyone had for Coach Ferris and the program that he built at Delta State, a lot of guys chose to come there because of him, and we had some good teams. We had some great talent. Back then, we would play half of our 55-game schedule. We would play Division I schools, and we did quite well against them during the course of my 4 years at Delta State. We played Mississippi State and probably were 500 with them over the 4 years. We played Ole Miss. We played Southern Miss. We played Alabama. We played Notre Dame. We played Memphis. We played Texas A&M. We had as tough a Division II schedule as anyone in the nation, and we did quite well. And that obviously prepared us for our conference play and gave us the edge when it came time to postseason. And we had four great teams the 4 years I was there. The program eventually won a national championship in 2004, but we had many teams that had made it into the regionals, and certainly all 4 years that I played there, we made it to the regionals, winning it my senior year. And one more side note, that Mississippi College Baseball Player of the Year award, which I was very honored to receive, several years later was named the Ferris Award in honor of Coach Dave Boo Ferris and his great legacy in baseball in Mississippi. So great time, great college experience I'll never forget, and I cherish every minute of it.
No doubt about it. Barry, 1981-82, special year for you. You were drafted twice. 81 by the Detroit Tigers, 25th round in the MLB June amateur draft. And then by the New York Mets, 15th round in 1982. Talk about what you were doing. How did you hear that both organizations were interested in you during the 81-82 seasons?
Well, I was well aware that I had placed myself in position to eventually, live out my dream and play professional baseball, and ultimately to play Major League Baseball, which was a childhood dream of mine. But during my first 2 years in college, I excelled, and interest certainly, increased from the professional scouts. And I played the Cape Cod League, which was the most prestigious college baseball summer league and still is today. I played there 2 years, so a lot of scouts saw me, and I put myself, in the mix as far as getting drafted. But my junior year, we had several rainouts. Our team didn't do as well as we wanted to, and unfortunately, I suffered a fractured hamate bone in my left hand, and I missed about a month of the season. So I still put up good numbers. I made it back in time to go win postseason, but I didn't have the total year that I wanted, and I just had a heart-to-heart with myself. As badly as I wanted to play professional baseball, the offer from the Tigers was minuscule as far as a signing bonus. And I wanted to finish my degree in business at Delta State, but more importantly, I wanted to go out on a high note and to finish my senior year and honor Coach Ferris for his commitment to me and honor my teammates. And I made the choice to turn down the Tigers' offer, and I went back for my senior year and had an amazing senior year. And we ended up in the Division II College World Series, finishing third in the nation that year. And as you mentioned earlier, I was Mississippi Baseball Player of the Year. And at the conclusion of my senior year, I was drafted by the New York Mets, which was so exciting. And part of that was, one, I was going to be playing professional baseball, but two, the AA franchise was in my home state of Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, which was basically halfway between my home and where I went to college in North Mississippi. So that was an added bonus for being drafted by the Mets. But I couldn't have been more excited and thankful. And going back for my senior year was a great decision and certainly paid off. Yeah,
Barry, no question, is a big honor, drafted by the Mets. I mean, that was 1982, as we mentioned. By 1984, Barry, you were a significant contributor of the Carolina League for Lynchburg. You were second leading hitter of the league and was awarded MVP. That must have been a special moment at Lynchburg.
It really was, Brian. That was the year that really solidified my inner thoughts and my feelings and my belief that I would be a Major League Baseball player one day. I wasn't necessarily ready at that very moment, but the year that I had were very similar to what I had in American Legion ball, college ball, the Cape Cod League. I made All-Star team and was one of the top hitters in the league. So, I was blessed with talent, but I also had some great coaches along the way. I mentioned Coach Ferris, but I love baseball, and I passionately worked at it. I loved hitting and loved hitting with men on base, and loved driving in runs and winning baseball games. That was what I did. That's who I was, and nothing stopped me from being the best that I could be, and certainly I was just very fortunate and very blessed to have that great season in Lynchburg, and then that catapulted me to the next level. But it was a great season, and Dave Magadan, my teammate for many years with the Mets, he was obviously on our club that year as well, and he led the league in hitting. But to be named MVP, which I think was an honor that I deserved, quite honestly, and that was a big feather in my cap and a big confidence booster for me going forward.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. That was 1984. And then the following year, 1985, reading your career, Barry, for the Jackson Mets. I mean, you set some club records there that are newsworthy. I'm reading here, 85, you set the club record for the Jackson Mets. 108 RBIs, breaking Darryl Strawberry's mark of 97.
Yeah, that was, an even better season than in '84, and once again, the Mets had great talent. When Frank Cashin came on board, as many people that saw the documentary on ESPN a month or so ago, that organization was built from the bottom up, starting in about 1980, I guess, and certainly we had tons of talent, and something that you don't see a whole lot now. The Tampa Bay Rays are a great example of it, but the Mets then really not only had great talent and really developed their players through the player development department, but they developed players to win championships, and that's what has gotten away from so many organizations. They develop players to put up numbers at the big league level. They don't teach them how to win, and they don't give them the whole picture when they're in the minor leagues. And the Mets during that era did. We won championships at every level. Every team, for a 3 to 5 year period, won multiple championships each year. And I was a part of a championship in A-ball, AA, and AAA. And obviously, as a rookie, a Major League World Series championship. So it was a great organization with a lot of talent, but that year in Jackson was very special for me, being here in my home state. And it seemed like every time somebody got on base or got in scoring position, I drove them in. And that's what I thrived on, was being in up to bat in those type situations. And that season was very special in many ways. And I just am very thankful for that season here in my home state.
We're talking with the great Barry Lyons, former MLB catcher. Also, Barry, on that 85 Jackson team, Dave Magadan, as you mentioned, Kevin Elster, Randy Myers comes to mind. How was the camaraderie, within the organization? We had, as I mentioned earlier, great talent, but great guys. I mean, we all got along, to be honest with you. I mean, you hear, of infighting or jealousies or, factions within the team or within the organization. But, to a man, I mean, yeah, certainly there were guys maybe that didn't like other guys. That's normal. That's life. That happens. But as a whole, our players really bonded together quite well. There was a brotherhood. We were all in it together. We were winning championships at every level. Guys were moving up each level each year. There wasn't a whole lot of skipping around or skipping levels. You had to earn your way because there was so much talent at every level, and there wasn't promotion because of somebody liking you or because they had money invested on you. You had to earn it. And the old-fashioned way, if you will. It was a merit-based system of moving up the ladder, of climbing to that ultimate major league position.
And it was a brotherhood. It was a bond between all the players, really, in the Mets organization. It was by far the best organization in all of baseball. It started in 1980, but by 83 and certainly by 84, there was no issues, no ifs, ands, and buts. The Mets organization from 83 to 90 was the best in all of baseball at every level in every way, and I was very thankful to have been a part of that.
And of course, everyone remembers the '86, the special year the Mets win the World Series. And now you participated that season in about half a dozen games with the Mets. Now you were assigned as backup role to Hall of Famer Gary Carter. Talk about that experience, being having a backup role to the great Gary Carter.
Well, after my MVP season in 1984, had Mike Fitzgerald, John Gibbons, and a few other guys had been the catcher for the team, off and on for that 2 or 3 year period. But unfortunately, when I had made my mark and had put myself in great standing, in a great position to be, one of, if not the next catcher for the Mets traded for Gary Carter, and obviously it was a great move for the Mets. He was a great player, a Hall of Famer. He played a huge role in the '86 championship team. So he was a roadblock to me personally, but he was a great addition to an already talented team, and I think he's referred to as the last link or the missing link that really solidified the team, and I can't argue with that. Gary was a great player, and he was very much a huge part of that championship. But I made the team out of spring training as a backup. I beat out Ed Hearn, John Gibbons, Clint Hurdle. There were a few more other guys. There was a lot of competition, great competition for that backup job, and I won it. But I was there for the first 6 weeks of the season and only got 2 starts. I did well. I contributed an RBI in each game. We won both games. But, I was sitting on the bench. I wouldn't say wasting away, but, I needed at-bats. I needed to play. And Gary was playing every day, and the team was doing awesome. And, there were off days here and there. So it wasn't, like we were in the grind of the long season. We were still, early in the season. And they sent me down to back to AAA, Tidewater, to get some at-bats, to get some playing time, to stay sharp and be ready. And so I went down, and they called up Ed Hearn. I did well at Tidewater. I played well. I hit well, drove in a lot of runs, and did what they asked me to do. But when Ed was there over the next month, he got several more opportunities than I did in my first go-round, and he capitalized on it. He did well. And so he basically earned, if you will, the backup job, and did a good job. But I came back up in June when Hojo had an injury and was there as the third catcher and a right-handed pinch hitter off the bat. And unfortunately, I got a couple of pinch hit appearances, but didn't get to play or didn't get to start or catch. And ultimately, I went back to Tidewater and continued a very good season there. And on August 2nd, I believe it was, I suffered a broken right forearm, which ended my season, and that was very disappointing and very untimely, if you will. And it was a sad way to end what was my major league debut season, and it obviously cost me a chance to be on the postseason roster for a world championship team, and that was very disheartening, to say the least. But three days after I got injured and was out for the year, Gary suffered a thumb injury that kept him out of the lineup for almost 3 weeks, and that would have been a great opportunity for me, but unfortunately I was hurt. Ed did a good job, and John Gibbons came up instead of me, and, they kept the train rolling. I mean, by then the Mets had 10 or 15 game lead in the division. They were, obviously the talk of baseball and was certainly the best team, no ifs and buts about it, in all of Major League Baseball, and an amazing season it was.
Well, I do know that when you started, Barry, you had a solid performance. I mean, you were a solid player. I mean, you belted 2 home runs your first 9 at-bats in the big league. And then, a moment that stands out was that 6-inning grand salami you hit. I don't know if you remember this. You probably do. For Kelly Downs of the Giants on the 7-4 victory.
Yeah, that would have been the next year in '87, and that was obviously a very special moment for me. Gary played every day. '87, I was the only backup catcher. Ed Hearn got traded. Of course, I beat him out, but he got traded to Kansas City for David Cohn. Which was a huge trade for the Mets, and unfortunately Ed had arm injuries and shoulder problems, and his career really kind of never materialized beyond that. But it was a great season for me in '87. A full-time backup, was there the whole year, and had several shining moments, if you will, for me personally. But our team had some injuries to the pitching staff. It came down to the final weekend in St. Louis, but we finished second place to the Cardinals. But yeah, that August 20th, 1987, I hit a grand slam off Kelly Downs that will forever be remembered by me and my family and a lot of people that cared about me and pulled for me, and that was certainly my biggest hit as a Met, if you will. But I had many more great memories and great experiences, in the years to come.
And I know many of your pitching mates praised your skills for signaling pitches. And I often wonder to myself, what was it like to catch a curveball from Dwight Gooden? I mean, was it nasty?
Well, I mean, you get used to it, but yeah, he had the best curveball in all of baseball, and the best fastball, and was the best pitcher for probably a 3 to 4 year period. Unfortunately, he was still an outstanding pitcher for many, many years, but those first 3 years, he was phenomenal. It was incredible. But we had the best pitching staff in all of baseball, led by Doc, no question about it. And I did. I earned the respect and earned the trust of all of the pitchers. That was one of my calling cards as a catcher, was that I studied the game, and as a backing up a Hall of Fame catcher, the number one job of a backup catcher is just to make sure defensively there's no drop-off. Whether or not you can hit and put up the kind of offensive numbers Gary did, it's not possible as a backup. So my focus was to be the best defensive catcher I could be, and really get to know my pitching staff and make sure that they were comfortable and confident and trusted me, and they did, to a man. And I earned that. It didn't just happen by chance. And but playing, once or twice a week is very difficult for a player offensively. It's tough to get into a rhythm and to build confidence that otherwise you would have or would develop being an everyday player. So that part of it was tough. I mean, the label that was quote unquote put on me as a minor league player was this guy's a great offensive player, but like all young players, he has some issues and some things that need to get better defensively. And by the time I was the backup catcher to Gary Carter, the label had switched. Here's a very good defensive catcher that calls a great game, runs the pitching staff, is tough and plays hard and blocks balls and receives the ball well. Throwing out base runners wasn't my strong suit, nor was it Gary's in the end. And part of that was the fact that our pitching staff was power pitchers and they didn't necessarily hold runners close. And so, that was one of the vulnerabilities of our team, and certainly was the stolen base. And that was an era when the stolen base was a huge part of baseball. You had the Cardinals, that everybody ran. The Phillies had a lot of guys that could steal bases, and several other teams really utilized the stolen base as part of their offense. But being a backup catcher, your job is to first and foremost be the best you can be defensively, so that there's not a drop-off when the number one guy is out of the lineup. And I think I did a great job of that. Offensively, it's tough to hit when you don't get the reps or don't get the at-bats over the course of the week.
And they're telling me I have a minute left, Barry. I wanted to talk about the Charleston Alley Cats. I know you became a manager. How was that experience for you?
I managed for 2 seasons in the Cincinnati Reds organization, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The first year in particular, we had a young catcher that I groomed and had a hand in helping him develop, named Jason LaRue, that went on to probably a 10-year career in the big league with the Reds and the Cardinals. But we lost in a championship series that first year. The second year, my daughter was born during spring training, and it wasn't the same. And I chose to get out of the managing career, if you will, so that I could be home and be an everyday dad. And I'll never regret that decision. But ultimately, had I stayed in, certainly I had a future from the coaching side of it. But I'm very blessed. I've lived a great life in baseball. It's been a huge part of it. I've had my ups and downs. I've had my highs and lows. But in the end, God has been good to me, and baseball is still a large part of who I am and what I am. But my faith in God and my born-again Christian beliefs and my relationship with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ takes precedent over it all. But I'm so blessed, so thankful, and I appreciate you having me on, Brian.
The honor was mine. I really appreciate it. You sound great, and hopefully we could do this again in the near future.
That's what I would love to. Anytime. Just let me know, and I'm here. But God bless you and your program and your family, and I hope our paths cross again.
Thanks, Barry. I appreciate it so much.
Okay, my man. Have a great day.
You too. That was former New York Met MLB catcher Barry Lyons. Thanks, Barry. Until next week, happy collecting to all.